Hi, it's Burt here from samplelibraryreview.com, and today we're going to be looking at the hotly anticipated fourth release from Slate and Ash, which is called Choreographs. We've got hardware synth samples blending with organic sources to create a myriad of pads, sequences, sound design, keys, drums, and plenty more. And all of them are dancing to their own beat, be that a slow and subtle waltz or a lively melodic cha-cha, all the way to frenetic and disjointed raving. Slate and Ash might not be the most prolific sampled library developers out there, but they more than make up for it in the sheer quality and ingenuity of their products. Will Slater, Simon Ashdown and James Worst have expanded from creating private collections for the likes of the sadly missed Johan Johansson and Ben Salisbury and Jeff Barrow to a commercial collection of now 4 Kontakt sample libraries. The first one was Aura, that focused on shape-shifting textures and pads. Then we had Cycles, which was all about loops and granular sequencing. And the third one was Landforms, which focused on new orchestral explorations. To an extent, the Bristol Studios' latest release, Choreographs, has a broader remit and is somewhat of a chameleon in being a drum machine, granular processor, next-level sampler, key designer, effects machine, and a complex sequencer all in one. It features the guiding principles of the Slate and Ash approach: inventive source material that is beautifully recorded, a complex and malleable Kontakt engine, superbly created presets, and, importantly, an overall playfulness that results in inspiring creative serendipity. Choreographs has 22 gigabytes of content, there's 8,387 samples, there's 427 sample sources. They come in the form of analog, digital and modular synthesizers, drum machines, acoustic instruments and noise layers. There are 661 engine preset patches, 122 created engine states, and it's for the Kontakt player for VST, AU and AX. It's fully NKS compatible and it sells for £249 plus any tax. The Everything bundle, which includes Choreographs, is also available for £699 plus tax. This is what you'll see upon first loading Choreographs. I've got this within complete control because it works quite nicely. There is only one NKI in this, which is a bit different to other Slate and Ash products. So all the presets are contained within snapshots, which for me is a neater approach and also makes them load a lot quicker as well. But it works equally well in Kontakt, and it's a Kontakt player instrument, so you don't need the full version of Kontakt. We'll kick straight off with listening to some presets. There's a fair few ways of getting to them in complete control, one of which is using, if you've got an NKS keyboard, or simply by sort of clicking here to quickly audition them as well. This is why the NKS thing really comes into its own. So you don't have to load every patch to hear what it sounds like. You get a little taste of it beforehand. If I double click that or press my button, if you've got a Native Instruments keyboard, it'll load it up, and then here we've got it ready to mess around with. Anything with MW is mod wheel controlled. We actually be able to see the mod wheel in motion. That's a real nice touch. So I'm going to flick through a bunch of presets. I'll do them in different ways. Sometimes I'll just go from here. Sometimes I'll go across there. I'll turn the mic off and occasionally spout some words of wisdom, or not, as we go through and have a listen. And I'll do my eye 1. As the title of the library suggests, a lot of the patches do dance around and have constant motion, even in categories which you would normally expect them to be quite static. That feeling gives that feeling of constant, sometimes subtle, sometimes massive movement, which is just interesting on the ear. Drums we can have a little look at over here. Nice. Nice indeed. Wow, some crazy stuff out there. Really unusual sounds, and you know, Slate and Ash have that habit of coming up with something that you don't hear in other libraries. Pink Taiko, I just like the name of that one. When we've got a V in the brackets after the title of the preset, it just means that it's a velocity control. Here you can see it all in there, all in the envelope. And have we done that? Yeah, we've done that. Let's have a quick look at these. Gestural. These are more sound design type of things. Real nice Brahms. And this I especially like. It's like a twisted future harp. Oops. It's just brilliant in so many ways. Keys, bulb, what can you be? There's not many in there, not in that method anyway. Let's go back. Keys, Della. Bit of lo-fi, noisy stuff going on. Motions, pendulum pulses. And there were some pads as well. There's loads of different types of sound in here, as well as different emotions. So it goes from pretty to downright nasty and across lots of different types of sound. I'd say arguably Choreographs has a broader scope than the 3 previous Slate and Ash releases. crushed teeth. Now, if this isn't nasty sounding, I will leave my hat. Oh yes, pretty nasty. Sequence, Euclid hang. Now this is interesting. So it's a mod wheel, but it also starts to use this Euclidean sequencer, which, don't ask me exactly how it works. I vaguely know. It's super complicated, but the effect of it is really quite tasty. Weird, crazy, jumpy kind of rhythms. That's what we like. And is tropical. Let's end on a bright note. This first little look at the presets. I brought up one of the more basic patches in Choreographs called At Ease, which sounds like this. I've chosen something quite simple without lots of effects and other bells and whistles on it, so I can take you through the engine a little bit easier. It may seem quite complicated, but if you view it as a synthesizer, a glorified synthesizer, if you like, then things become a lot more easier to understand. We have the oscillators or sound banks across the top, 1, 2, and 3. You've got a filter, delay, reverb, impulse response. You've got your modulation, envelope, randomizer, and EQ here. This little box here is really important because this enables us to dive a little deeper into any parameters that we may have chosen in this section here. And in the bottom left are your effects, which we'll come on to a little bit later. So in order to choose a sound, it's quite elegantly done. We put our mouse over there, hit the plus, and we'll see we've got rings here, which is a warm electric piano type of sound, and simply select another oscillator plus that, and we can choose something else. So maybe Polyvox Square. There's an absolute plethora of content to choose from. The content here, the samples are superb. We've got analog, digital, and modular synthesizers. We've got physical stuff, which is sometimes the weird and wonderful hybrid things, or some more naturalistic sounding found sound things, like wood and steel. And then acoustic are real instruments, either traditionally played or more often than not, slightly using more unusual articulations. And they blend really nicely with the analog stuff. And then we've got some drum machines as well. Now, each one of these has further parameters underneath. So you've got the medium across the top, which is a large category. Then you can really dial down if you know what sound you want into a particular type. And this changes depending on what you've got selected at the top here. What I especially like is the addition of plenty of lovely noise things going on as well. And these help give that gritty, textural, intimate sound, which is pretty cool. So let's go for, in terms of, so we've got something on 1 and 2. Now we're going to change to oscillator 3, and we'll go for noisy, just something, just a bit of tape. Then let's turn these off. You can either use your mouse for your volume controls here, the basic, or if you're fancy like me and you've got a controller with knobs on, NKS comes into its own. We'll put these back up and we'll subtly have that noise underneath. By selecting this, it also changes what's on here, and that'll be the same. So for the filter, it brings up parameters related to the filter, and for the delay there as well. Now, in this bit, you can change the basic things. So you've got like time and feedback for delay, cut off and envelope for the filter there. And if you want to get down and dirty in Program 8, simply click that and you'll see these extra parameters come up here. Some of them are quite extensive. So for the sound source options, we have a whole lot of things: low cut, depth, high cut. Got some EQ there. You got sample. You got a trigger thing, so you can trigger it like every 1, 2, or 3 hits of the keyboard. You've also got, you can trigger on a release as well, which is pretty neat. Or the standard all start of the sample, pan, scale, tune. We'll come to that a bit later. Fine tune, envelope, and then filter per oscillator and space as well per oscillator. And this, clicking that will bring up, there's a neat pop-ups all over this place, which is really nice. It makes sure that you can have a one-page interface, but with these little things that you pop into, get what you need, and then pop out of. So these are the IRs. We've got more radical stuff here, down to more sort of sensible things there, and then we can just whack the level up there. So we open the filter up, dead easy with that. And if we want to dig in deeper, we can change the type of it. And you got your resonance there as well. And then similarly for the delay, we've got further options for delay. And we can have, I think this is using the replica delay, so we can use the digital tape and the bucket brigade. Put your teeth in, Samuel. Delay there, and we've got the reverb as well, which is a standard contact inbuilt. Where it gets interesting is the IRs, and we've done some great custom IRs here. And this is the same page as you get on the oscillator. However, this IR affects everything. So you can have individual reverbs, or IR, should I say, for 1, 2, and 3 oscillators here, and then this one on top of that as well, should you want to do. So things can get pretty complex and pretty beautiful rather quickly. So I'll turn some of these off just for now. Just double click to turn them off, like so. Across the top here, you've got your modulation. We'll show you that in a little second. Your envelope. Now the envelopes, you've got amp, filter, and pitch. These relate to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, these oscillators here, and all will be affecting every single one of them. Randomizer is a real neat function here where we can dial in little bits of random modulation to a whole wealth of parameters, which gives the feeling of either a kind of vintage synth that's not quite behaving itself, or like a live player with the naturally human feel of things not being the same every single time. So I'll just randomly do stuff on the randomizer. Okay, and we've got the EQ. I think have I done something weird with the octave one? Yeah, okay, let's turn the octave down because that's going to confuse matters. Good in a certain place, but not right now. EQ, fairly basic shaping of your overall sound there. Should there be a resonance or anything like that, that's getting on your nerves. Okay, so we have the effects down here, and we're going to go into them a little bit later, so we're not going to look at them just at this moment. Across the top, we've got preferences there. So a lot of instruments don't have this, so it's nice to see these global preferences for various things. We've got engine states here. Now these are kind of presets for all of these parameters here, so you can kind of, if you click one of these, it'll instantly change everything here. And again, that's something I'll be exploring later on. This gives you options to micro tune each individual note. So if there's a particular kind of scale that you like, then you can put that in there as well, or even create a custom one. And we've got this little bunny here, which again, I'll show you in a little second, and poly and mono at the top there. So the important thing to remember is that you want to be making sure this little grey box is selected, and then whatever you see in here will be related to this section here. Now, what's fantastic about this is especially the modulation. I'm going to show you it on the cutoff of the frequency on the filter. because it's quite obviously noticeable. There's a few things I especially love about the modulation here. These range indicators are just great. So you can do bottom and top independently. And then you can also, by clicking the middle, select them all and to keep the respective differences between them. I also love the way it changes. So you'll see that as I'm running up the different modulators, it's changing automatically what we see here. So it refers to the correct one. So we've got LFO 2, for example. We've got 3 LFOs. And I've clicked sign. We got a whole different range of options here. And you can see this lovely animation, which is still there in this page. And it's wonderful to see the animation change, especially for ones that aren't as obvious, such as these more complex custom LFOs. You can not just hear, but you can visually see what's happening with the LFO, which I think is really nice. You've got your speed here. You've got a smoothness here. Which effectively is a little bit of the amount as well, I guess, and sync options there. Now, sticking with the filter, we can also choose CC. Now you can go to your modulation there if you want, but it's not going to change it for this. You need to click here and then go onto your CC. I think we're down at CC1. Easy enough to change from number 1 to 127. So I'll keep it on the mod wheel for now. We can also learn it dead easy as well there. We've got the exponential and linear options for it there. And again, another smoothness control on the side. So beautifully, this matches my movements as well. And coming on to the final modulator, LFO. We've done L4s, what am I on about? Steps. Which is really lovely. Let's give that a little bit more. And get the resonance up a little bit. And we can choose the steps here. So by taking them down, we can have a more shorter sequence up to a maximum of 16 steps. We've got speed here. We've got direction there, so we can go forward, backwards, and do the bounce thing. And we've got the smoothness here, and this works really nicely for the step in particular. The high settings, it can act as almost like a custom LFO. So it's easy enough to actually drag it in just by mousing over there. You can drag in whatever shape you want. So let's do something like that, and we'll get these steps up. That's really neat and massively flexible. Worth bearing in mind that each destination here can only have one source assigned to it, but we can have the step 1 across loads of different stuff. It's just that the cutoff will only accept one source of modulation. And the final ones, we don't need to play these, but we've got random there, and we've also got velocity there, which can help to shift the sound exactly how you would like it. Now, one thing which is pretty cool, let's take the filter down a bit. So One thing that's pretty cool is the ability to modulate the pitch in a more musical way than you would normally do, for example. So if I dial in the tune in here, I'm going to use LFO 2. Now we've got that kind of constant chromatic sweep, which we would be expecting from modulating the tuning. However, by using these parameters here, you can either use a scale here, or you can use these bits at the top there. We can actually specify what notes are gonna be hit by this tune. So there we've got the scale of D, and it's the fifth, and we can do any combination we so desire. We've got octaves, and we can even go to shorter scales. Obviously, I'm overdoing that, and you may want that to be a bit more subtle, or you may want to use it as part of an effect. However, it is a wonderful special addition to what is already quite a wonderfully flexible instrument. Now, to take any modulation off, simply just drag down, and the INV there is just to invert it, so you can invert any modulation should you want to. I brought up a preset here that I've tweaked, so I can better show you exactly how the sequencer section works. Now, this is the raw sound we're playing with. Clicking here, we're onto the sequencer. It's a Euclidean sequencer. So it's full of maths that I don't fully understand yet, but it enables us to get some quite interesting polyrhythms. So I can change these different parameters here and get some interesting happening. Each key press relates to a decreasing circle. So the first one will be the green, and then we're onto the blue. And they also have parameters tied to things like the gate as well. So on the, I can get that right down. Even tighter if I take this down a bit. The notes that I hit are also tied to what we've got up here. So I could say if I went to D and then I went to just octaves. And I went to, say, Phrygian. Pretty neat. We also have further controls here. There's scale replicated there. We've got the rate, so you can speed it up by double, or we can slow it down. Changing the mode. Kind of bounces it around, because we're only going to be hitting, it's just because it's in mono, we're only going to be hitting a single note at one time. It bounces it around, which is an interesting type of effect. And then we've also got tuning as well. So each of these colours corresponds with the tuning here. So we could say we could tune that up an octave on that one, maybe tune this one down. And they're also modulatable, so we could have the LFO doing something on that. can see we can get some incredibly complex patterns happening that you would never in the million years actually program yourself, which I really like this. It's a bit of a head mess and it will take a while to get into, but I actually found I got some quite good results just from fiddling around and playing with it. And this is a really worthwhile, I see it as a kind of extra almost to what's already a really incredible Kontakt engine. Now the final thing about the interface to really go into it is this section down here, which I haven't touched upon yet. I've loaded up a patch that I made as I was exploring and trying to figure out the instrument. And that's actually, I found that to be a really good way of learning it, was to go ahead, start with nothing, like an init patch basically, and then build up from there and discover great things. And it's a real thing about this library is that you kind of discover and come across happy accidents as you go, and then that inspires you to then do something else with it. So it's worth bearing in mind at this point also where we can show, I can get control of, I'll just play a little bit and use these. If you've got an in-case compatible keyboard, it's very nice that we can have a bit of control over certain basic parameters. As you can see here, as I'm moving that knob, it's changing this. And there isn't loads. Sometimes I get some instruments which have loads and you just end up never using them, but these have just got all the basics here. So I'll just play this so you can just hear what we're going to be using to demonstrate a few things. So I wanted this kind of insistent pulse that had a lot of variability in it. So I'll take these off just so we can see what they are not doing. So I've just got to remember which ones I put on there. So lo-fi clone, smear trigger. Without the effects, these are generally the considered to be the effects of the instrument. That's what I had, and it doesn't play brilliantly as a keyboard, so it's not what the patch is designed to be. It's something different. So I've got some movement going on with the LFO one there. Let's put that on just so we've got something nice to watch. There we go. Oh, yes. Dance around. The trigger is your sequencer. So by clicking that, you can also come across, get some trigger presets there as well. And the same for, in fact, not the same for, it's the only one that does that, but that gets you to different rhythms a lot quicker. But I kind of went from scratch and just programmed in a few things here. So again, this is the detail. You click on there and you look here. Programming in this, I should say, it's quite click heavy because they're going for this one page approach, which I love. I kind of like the simplicity of that one page approach and these other little pop-ups. It does mean that you have to keep an eye on where this square is, because you can often find yourself messing around with this and going, now what's happening? But it's because you haven't got the right thing selected there, or there. And yeah, some stuff is pretty detailed in terms of you click that and then there's even more menus, so a bit more clicking there. But you know, if you want the control, you have to have lots of controllers, and this is what happens with this. So we've got different options here. I've got it on a repeat, so we can put it on the R option. Which will play like an arpeggio, and repeat is more like it'll play, if I play a chord, it'll just repeat the whole chord. I wanted a pulse thing, so it was, I guess for a pulse, single note pulse, you could arguably do it in the R, but it makes sense to do it like this in case you had an extra note. You can go up or down, or wherever you want, basically. You got sync there, you got the speed, you got rate, you got strike, which is how many hits. More relevant for the arpeggio, to be honest, how many hits it takes. You got the octave there, which I'm actually going to do something with now, because I just had an interesting thought about it. I've got step one. I'll slow that right down. was doing this the other day on a different patch and I thought, yeah, that really works quite nicely. So we'll keep it on for now. So the step one there is kind of on occasions making it jump up into different octaves. We've got a gate, we've got rhythm, we've got a sweep. The sweep's interesting in terms of it speeds up or slows down the repeats. So if I whack it right up, starts off slow and goes really fast. We'll whack it right down. The opposite, it goes really quick, then slows down. Not so useful for what I'm going for here, but for the, remember that harp I played earlier, that gestural type of stuff where we get that sort of sweeping motion, works great for that. Random and chance are brilliant functions. Random is kind of, I'll take the delay off. I've got this as a fairly steady pulse, but by clicking random, I can make it go basically a bit more crazy. And chance is what is the probability of it hitting every single note. So the moment it's 100%, so you're just going to play sort of straight and even pulses. If I take it down, it'll miss some out. The jerky type of rhythms, constantly changing, that's really cool. The rhythm here, so I've got one which is the bass, but you can also dial it up and you get some interesting pre-programmed craziness. I'll go back to where it was. So in combination with that and that, you can get some pretty radical far out kind of rhythms. Okay, so that's the trigger in a nutshell. Harmony is where we can add some, I've got a kind of fifth going on there. We can add layers of other notes, wherever we want them. And this is always also like the LFO is and the CC thing there, is a visual representation of what's going on. Modal, this is where it may start to get confused with people, but basically modal is a type of flanger. It's just given a fancy name. So I'll turn these off because they're not part of the patch as we go. Got amp. Put a cab on it. Getting a bit raucous there. We've got a lo-fi. And I had CC2 as well. On the push, so that's given a little bit of saturation going into it. We've got clone, which is basically a chorus with a lot of variables there as well, including the mode as well, so we can go for. Oh, it sounds quite nice, that. Maybe keep it on a bit less. Loss. That's your bit crusher. And the amazing thing is all these are able to be assigned to a source as well. All sorts of stuff can move. For these ones, again, you get these controls of the lower and upper ranges. And smear is this epic, sweepy delay thing. I'm not sure what it is under the hood, but it sounds very cool. Instant massive. If it's got, you can just faintly see here, this has like a white line. Some of them, like the mirror, the mode, you see, doesn't. It's greyed out, so that can't be modulated. But it's not the sort of thing you're going to want to modulate anyway. That. If we go back to, I'll just kind of click on and off this preset. There we go, back to what we had. There's a lot of room, a lot of atmosphere going on without even touching the delay, the reverb, and the AR there, using a lot of that smear there. And the CC1 is doing a lot of the evolution of the sound. So I've got that on the filter to open the filter up a little bit, but also on this clicky, sort of more percussive sound. Oops, click off of that. Turn these off. It's just there to bring that in. I mean, this thing really is an absolute Aladdin's cave of treasures to explore. And again, I'm not using all of these, and plenty of patches, hardly use any, and just use some of the other functions. Massively flexible stuff. Now, a fancy Contact engine is all well and good, but if the samples don't match it, then it's only half the story. And I'm happy to say that Choreographs really delivers. And as much as I've spent a long time going through the engine and what it can do, really the beating heart and the quality underneath Choreographs does lie in the raw samples. So what I've loaded up here is the init patch, and there's nothing on it you can see here. That's moving, but it's not doing anything. I'm going to go to the presets. I'll start with what it comes up with, the Juno saw, and I'm going to go through each category just for a couple of minutes, and I'm just going to play something dead simple. It'll just be probably octaves in the middle of the keyboard and across a random selection of the different source sounds, just so you can get an idea of what's on offer. As you can hear there, there's a huge variety of content from classic analog synths through to bizarre acoustic taps. We've got workhorse things such as sine waves. We've also got more avant-garde hybrid noises as well. And put them all together within this engine, and that's where Choreographs really comes to life. If that wasn't all enough for you, there's even the ability to drag in your own sound. So here's an acoustic guitar that's been fingerpicked beautifully. It's an excerpt from a song by a friend of mine called Paul Browse. I'll just drag these from the desktop. You can put it in the IR, any of the slots here for the sample. We'll put it in there. I'll give you a quick play so you can hear what we've got to play with here. Okay, so that kind of thing. Now, it's quite a long sample, so we can play with the start to find an interesting point. That might have something there. Let's see what the envelope does to that. Let's go with that. Let's get a bit of some sort of pattern going on it. A repeater. Because I want to make this into some sort of mad pulse. Octave that up. Drag these in a bit. Once you've got them set, you can drag up and down, and they keep the relationship the same. Put that on the step actually. And let's get filling them gaps a little bit with some IR. Something a bit different though. The ghost is nice. Drag one down an octave. Just make the pulse a bit tighter. give the octave a little bit of randomicity. Talking of random, we can randomize a little bit of everything. That would be interesting to know if there's a quick way to randomize everything. Randomize the randomizer, if you like. And a little bit of delay to further syncopate matters. So we've got a little summit there. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's fun. And we can add then extra stuff, either of our own, or if we want to go here, we can use guitar. Let's use a flam thing. We filter that off a bit. That's quite nice already. What's that? Let's try a square unit. That's kind of a cool percussive thing, but I quite like a bit of. And I could say put that onto my CC2 and then introduce that when I want it in. You get the idea. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff you can do. Now, if you don't want to spend time programming in something bit by bit like that, there's actually a quick way to do it, which is a little bit more trial and error, but not so much because it's all nicely curated there. So here is the engine state, and we can initialize that to get back to where we were. And going back here, we can start to play with a few different options. Bubbling, for example. Every time you change the engine state, all these parameters change to reflect it, and then you can go ahead and tweak even further. We've got the Euclidean here. Really interesting things going on. Granular one. Try random grains. Interesting things there. Motion, rise and fall. I reckon that must be something going on with that sweep thing there. No. Well, interesting to see. We've got an LFO on the rate. There we go. Brilliant. Now I'll do one more. One of my favourite albums. Let's go for OK Computer. This one was in the sequencer. We've got lots of different options for how you want to get there. So these will get you to a place where you can then further tweak, which is what we're going to have to do with this patch. For example, just bringing up the filter. I think probably the gate. A bit low there. Resonance of the filter there as well. In case you're wondering where it was all along. And that once was a beautifully played acoustic guitar. Now it's some incredibly interesting percussive madness. The more I've played with Choreographs, the more I've come to realise it's a bit of a tour de force and actually how powerful Kontakt really is and what can be accomplished within it. I've seen many aspects of this in other libraries, but never so elegantly and harmoniously put together as Slate and Ash have here, such as the way the sleep, and it's not on this patch, but there's the sweep control here where we can control the speed over time of the arpeggiator. You've got the harmony function on this patch, which is, it takes different tunings, but then delays them. Effectively getting a nice kind of strumming feel. We've also got this randomization here, which is dialed in pretty heavy to give a more organic and ever-changing feel. There's other things as well that are not especially new, but have been implemented in such a way that I think is quite unique. I really like how any modulation on the tuning can be then restricted to different chords, which I think is really clever. But just by clicking these, we can assign a whole myriad of different modes. And other things are not especially new within a Kontakt instrument, but the way they've been implemented is really pretty special. This is, for me, one of the most enjoyable ways of programming I've seen in the Kontakt engine, because simply by just sliding this up, suddenly this links to it. We're activated and we can quickly go ahead and tweak this. It makes it really hands-on, really playable. I'll just take these off in case we play it again. It sounds weird. And the other thing is the sequencer here. Now, I've seen Euclidean sequencing within other Kontakt instruments, but never as deep as this. I mean, I'll put it on for a second. And the more we activate these, the more things we bring in. And not just that, but we have links here via the colours to even change the tuning and the gates of different parts of the pattern as well. That for me is a quite special part of this instrument as well, the deepness within the Euclidean sequencer. Now, the single page interface, it belies an extreme level of complexity. Now, I say single page, we've obviously got bits where we have little pop-ups like that, but essentially every control is on here. It doesn't mean it's simple, and you do need to spend quite some time with it to get your head around it. And it can feel a little bit daunting, especially if there's no written reference manual yet. Maybe that'll come. It will be quite helpful, though there's a good video tutorial on the website. But if you bear in mind, it's a typical synth engine at heart with additional effects and sequencing. And any slight confusion can often come down to the rather abstract naming Slate and Ash like to use. So you've got clone here, which is essentially chorus. Modal is a type of flanger. I would say don't shy away from getting really into this instrument. It pays off massively to have command over any of your equipment. And I would say this one especially just rewards knowing how it works, because it's so versatile. And by all means, play around with the presets. They're brilliant and they'll get you to some amazing places. But dig in a little deeper, create something unique, and they'll have a lot of fun in doing so. I could wax lyrical for some time about the playability and cleverness of the engine, not forgetting the classic graphics and cool animations, but what really makes Choreographs so special are the source samples. They cover a wealth of hardware synth sounds which are definitely backed up with found sounds, acoustic instruments and drum machines. I especially liked how across all source mediums there are so many atonal and noise samples. These add a layer of gritty ear candy that can be hugely effective. With over 8,000 samples and the unbelievable amount of modulation on offer, it's not difficult to create very bespoke sounds. Of course, for the ultimate individuality, you can simply import your own samples too and get mangling. If programming is not your thing, then the well-curated engine states and extensive presets have much to offer. With Choreographs, Slate and Ash cement their status as one of the most adventurous samplists out there, and arguably the leading boutique developer on the globe. In contrast to their more focused previous releases, this one is more varied in what it can give you. Pads, keys, arps, sound design, atmospheres, basses, drums and pulses abound. What ties them all together is the pursuit of inspiring new sounds, in constant motion, that we might well expect from composers that are part of the ever-boundary-pushing Bristol music scene. Choreographs dances across time, pitch, space and shape, and might also be dancing straight onto your hard drive. I hope you've enjoyed this review of Slate and Ash's Choreographs. Please comment below and let us know what you think about it and how it compares to their previous releases. Like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to visit samplelibraryreview.com for all the very latest reviews.